Hello, I'm Yulia, the voice of the podcast Love to Heal, a journey of self-discovery, healing, and spiritual growth. Hello, and welcome to Love to Heal podcast. Please follow, like, and subscribe. Sometime last year, I heard our rabbi's wife say that science is a way for humans to try and figure out how God works, and that science has only recently started to bring to the table that which has already been known for thousands of years in the Torah. Ever since, I have been very intrigued by this topic, and I started doing some research, so today's episode is inspired by the book How God Works. And this book, I think, is a great introduction to what religion has had to offer since its inception, and what science has been attempting to replicate in the secular world. The author of the book, DeSteno, a scientist himself, begins by pointing out how surprising it is that science hasn't taken up the charge to examine the effects of religion more widely and carefully. Studies upon studies demonstrate that religious practices have tremendous benefits for the human. Yet, few scientists advocate the integration of science and religion. As DeSteno puts it, quote, "I realized that we scientists were discovering many things that others had already realized and implemented long ago." So, one facet of religion that has become mainstream and trendy in the past decade, I would say, is that of meditation. The benefits of meditation are known to most people. It enhances attention, it decreases anxiety and stress, it even increases compassionate behavior towards others. Of course, all this is no news to the religious. Meditation has been an integral part of any religion for centuries. So the question David DeSteno poses is, what other spiritual technologies can scientists bring to the secular world to aid in healing everything from physical to mental to emotional ailments? And this is where it gets super exciting for me, because I've been studying the soul-body connection for years, and I'm convinced that religion has all the answers to all of our needs. I will focus on health in this episode, but rest assured, the Torah has us covered in all aspects of life. I should mention too that the book, How God Works, covers the benefits of several religions, but I will be focusing solely on Judaism because it is the closest to my heart, and that's the one I have been studying and practicing closely. In his book, DeSteno mentions numerous experiments and studies that reveal the power of religious rituals. One of them is an experiment that demonstrated that performing any type of ritual, even a non-religious ritual, before an activity, improved people's self-control. For example, after performing a made-up ritual, and then being offered a variety of foods, subjects of the study opted for healthier food options than those who did not perform any ritual. These results, of course, correlate directly to the religious mindfulness and consciousness factor. In Judaism, we perform a myriad of rituals that do just that. They keep us mindful and conscious of our choices. Let me give you the most clear example. Prayer before food. Prayer is a ritual that, meal after meal, helps us not only bless the food, make it pure for our body, but also serves as a reminder that whatever enters our body will either do us good or bad. And that since we are instructed by God to treat our bodies as temples, it is up to us to make a conscious choice between healthy and unhealthy, and between overindulgence and self-control. As soon as we say the prayer, we are immediately reminded that food is not just for filling our mouths and satisfying our physical hunger. It is more so a means to develop a healthy body and obtain support in order to have the ability to know and to serve God. Once you get into the habit of saying a prayer before each meal, you really do begin to eat healthier. I remember someone asked in one of the Torah classes, if we have to say a prayer every time food or drink touches our lips, wouldn't we be saying it hundreds of times a day? Seems crazy, right? Well, to this, our rabbi had a great answer. He explained that man was designed to eat only 2-3 times a day. Back in the day, people would sit down to eat breakfast and then would leave for the whole day to work, coming back for a sit-down supper or maybe even dinner, in which case the blessings would only be said 2 or 3 times a day, which is not a big deal. There was no such thing as snacking, eating on the road, sipping on a coffee throughout the day. This is a very recent phenomenon, and it's not natural or normal. It's like we have become cows, constantly chewing and chewing, and then people wonder why obesity is an issue. How many times have you snacked on something just because? Just because you were bored or needed to satisfy a craving? Often people turn to food for comfort. They eat their feelings. All this is non-existent in religion. Seriously, I won't go into great detail, but because religion is so holistic, all types of issues are addressed intrinsically when one follows the faith. Personally, ever since I became a practicing Jew, I noticed that food is no longer a crutch for me. I can fast without a problem, and I'm much more conscious of what I consume. The latter is also due to the fact that I've been trying to transition to kosher eating, meaning no pork, no shellfish, and no mixing of dairy and meat. You see, when you have limits as to what you can eat or not, you become a lot more conscious of your choices. Honestly, this may sound crazy, but I believe that the reason for the surge in all types of food allergies is actually a blessing in disguise. It's like our bodies are telling us there's too much choice out there. There is a risk of overeating, overindulging, which has detrimental effects not only on our bodies, but also on our souls. Think about it. Back in the day, even when I was growing up as a child in Russia in the 80s, I had never, ever heard of anyone with any type of allergy. Yes, we had very little food choice. There was not much prepackaged, ready-to-go food, but I bet you this saved us health-wise. Because then when I moved to the United States in the 90s, and I realized the types and the quantity of food that there were, it was endless. And we wanted to try everything, and we overate. And we actually gained a lot of weight when we moved from Russia to the United States. And then I realized at school, many of my friends had food allergies. And the older I got, the more people I started getting to know that had allergies, whether it's gluten or dairy or nuts. So, in my opinion, if not communism, like in the Soviet Union, then food allergies will stop humans from losing self-control. Interestingly enough, my cousins that live in Israel told me that veganism is very in style there right now. Even though half the Jews in Israel are secular, they're non-religious, many of them end up observing kosher without even knowing it. So I truly believe that setting limits to what you can have in terms of food, this even goes for Shabbat for Jews. When you can't go out on certain days, when you can't drive, you can't use electricity. All this is a way to teach us self-control, which in the end not only, like I said, aids our health, our physical health, but is extremely beneficial for our soul. And again, there's a reason for why religions still exist today. And many religions are thriving. They offer something to the human experience that nothing else can. It may take disaster or a terminal illness for some people to turn to religion, but sooner or later, most people begin to take note of the thousands of years of wisdom, thought, and experience passed down from generation to generation. And one thing remains clear. Those who regularly take part in religious practices report greater well-being than those who don't. So let's dig a little deeper. I'm going to come back to the trendy term meditation once more. Most people think that meditation is synonymous with yoga, Buddhism, and other Eastern philosophies, but this is not so. Meditation exists in other faiths, including Judaism, and it does not entail sitting on the floor cross-legged thinking of nothing. Commentaries on the life of Abraham suggest that when he sent his offspring to the east bearing gifts, these gifts included aspects of meditative practices that eventually surfaced in far Asian spiritual teachings. Abraham's son, Isaac, was a meditator too. When his bride Rebekah first saw him, he was meditating in the fields. And the biblical accounts of his practice of digging wells are understood to signify his delving into the depths of consciousness. Many of the early holy men in Jewish history were shepherds who chose the pastoral lifestyle in order to be able to meditate in the fields. Talmudic sages and mystical Kabbalists had a long-standing tradition to meditate before and during prayer. Since the time of the Rebbe and healer Baal Shem Tov, he lived in the 1700s, Hasidim, or Jewish mystics, have carried this legacy forward until the current day. In Judaism, meditation involves harnessing the dynamics of the mind in order to think in a more intentional, less random or accidental manner. There are many forms of meditation. The Hasidic practice of Hitbonenut meditation involves actively contemplating a spiritual concept until it expands our creative intelligence, deepens our awareness, and becomes an indelible part of our consciousness. Prayer is an advanced form of meditation, actually, but it is also simple and accessible to all. The Hebrew word for prayer, tefillah, implies connecting to and bonding with one's spiritual source. In fact, the prayer book, the Siddur, can be seen as a highly sophisticated, structured guide to cultivating our awareness of the presence and the power of God. I bought my first Siddur a couple months ago, and I try to read and pray every night before going to bed. When I read it, I'm concentrated on the text, and I feel like I'm connecting with God. This not only provides for de-stressing and mindfulness, but also sets me up for a good, calm night's sleep. Amongst other common and easy rituals that researchers have taken note of is gratitude. Giving thanks to God makes people more honest and generous, they say. I'll address the first part of the statement first, regarding honesty. Religious people believe that God is all around, always. You cannot hide from God, not even your thoughts. So, consequently, these people behave better in all aspects. They are more honest, they follow the rules more, especially those from the Bible, and overall, they strive to be model citizens. Some call this God-fearing, but our rabbi put it a different way, which I prefer. Just like as kids, we want to make our parents proud, so too we, as children of God, want to make our Father proud. Oftentimes, kids will do something bad behind their parents' back, and it's only a matter of time until the truth comes out. Whether adults understand this metaphor or not doesn't change the fact that no bad deed goes unpunished. Call it karma, call it God's punishment, or simply consequences, the result is the same. This is a childish behavior, and Torah teaches us to grow up by following the commandments that ultimately convert us into righteous human beings. Therefore, religious people understand that there's no use in hiding anything from God, and this propels them to do more good. Also, instead of fear of God, it helps to think of awe. Upon the realization that God is all-knowing and all-powerful, we feel not only inspired, but also humbled. This helps keep our ego in check, which is known to be the source of many life issues. I, by the way, have a whole episode on this topic in Season 1 titled Overcoming the Ego. Religious people understand that everything they have, including non-physical things like health and intelligence, is thanks to God. In other words, we didn't choose to be born in a specific body, to a specific family, possessing a certain talent. This was decided by God, and we're thankful to Him for giving us life and everything that comes with it. This is a very important concept to grasp, and one that honestly works wonders. I've taught my kids to say thanks every single night before bed for everything good and even bad that transpired throughout the day. In general, counting your blessings is guaranteed to increase the blessings in your life. And in the morning, we always thank God for giving us a new day, another opportunity to do good and enjoy all that life has to offer. Waking up with this kind of outlook on life is one of the best things we can do for ourselves. It not only puts us in a good mood, but sets the tone for the whole day, maybe even for the whole week. In regards to generosity, it is true too that religious people are generous. It is one of the commandments in Judaism to give to the poor. But every religion promotes giving because it is known that the more you give, the more you receive. Religion teaches too that God's love is infinite, and this divine love is all-encompassing. It includes health, wealth, money, everything a person needs for his well-being. Knowing this, it becomes easier to share and to give to the needy because you know there's more where that came from. This concept is important also because by giving, loving, and helping our neighbor, we can create strong communities. In the age of I and me, it's the religious communities that are thriving because in religion, the focus is never on oneself. I will have a separate episode on this topic, but it's time that we realize, for instance, help to others is better than self-help. Because in helping others, you forget about your own troubles. And so giving to others is also better than giving to yourself, because it isn't giving that you receive. Our society has been promoting selfishness far too much. It's all about self-love, self-help, self-care, giving yourself time and space, pampering yourself, treating yourself to something special, constantly. All this does not lead to internal peace. It may help people feel good for a few minutes or hours, but the effect does not last. This kind of self-centered outlook on life doesn't do anybody any good. It's interesting, before I became religious, I would hear my Christian friends tell me about how members of their church help each other all the time, that when my friend is sick, someone from the church would bring her soup or other food, or when she needed help on her farm. My friend has a farm with tons of animals, that members of the church would volunteer to take care of the animals and would help with anything that she needed. And then my other friend would always talk about helping out at the church, volunteering, helping each other babysit kids, and she even leads a Bible study with her husband at her house. And it all sounded very nice to me. I just wondered how people have time to do all this, to volunteer, to spend so much time at the church. Well, now that I do this myself, It's actually not only easy, but also, apparently, extremely satisfying. Now I volunteer on a regular basis at my synagogue, and I love it. If before I felt like I didn't have time for it, now I see it's just a matter of priorities. And of course, the more I volunteer and spend time at the synagogue, the more I get to know other members, and the more I feel part of the community, so that if, God forbids, I ever need help with anything, these people will return the favor. And actually, the next point that I'm going to look at proves just that: the importance of connecting to others and finding joy and peace in the we rather than the I. DeSteno goes on in his book to share findings from another study that rituals such as moving and singing together made people feel more connected and committed to each other. Once again, our day and age does not make it easy for people to find connection with other human beings because of all the technology present in our lives. It's much easier, of course, to sit on your couch and engage with others through a cell phone, social media, etc. But these connections are not very real and not very satisfying to the human soul. In a world of virtual reality and remote work and study, many people experience loneliness and are depressed because of it. But don't fret, religion has us covered. You see, the importance of physical gatherings has been known for thousands of years. The concept of minyan, that there is no public prayer without gathering of at least 10 Jews, is at least as old as the Babylonian Talmud. The writers of the Talmud believe that when 10 or more people gather for prayer or study, the Spirit of God dwells among them. Physical presence of people in contemplation, study, celebration, mourning, or spiritually meaningful work is a powerful and essential tool in creating not only thriving communities, but also happy individuals. In Judaism, many of the prayers are sung, and when the congregation joins in song, something extra miraculous occurs. When we listen to music, we connect to something beyond ourselves. Just like when we go to a concert where everyone enjoys the same tunes and we feel united with other human beings, the same thing happens during a prayer service, but on a deeper level yet. Judaism teaches that the mouth, the instrument of our bodies, connects the heart with the soul. When we join body with soul, we are complete. Music enables us to create a state where we are in tune with our essential spiritual selves and can feel united with our Creator and all the people around us. In essence, music can be an expression of prayer. Perhaps this is why the Hebrew word for prayer, tefillah, and the word for song, shira in Hebrew, have the same numerical equivalent in gematria, the Jewish practice of assigning a numerical value to a word or phrase. I'll confess, when I'm at a prayer service and I hear all the beautiful prayers sung by everyone in unison, I tear up. Something inside me moves. It's a feeling I really can't explain. Perhaps this is the feeling of being elevated that our rabbi speaks to us about. Perhaps God is ever more present when we pray in groups. If you've never experienced a prayer service, I highly recommend it. As you can see from what I've covered today, the benefits of religion are numerous, but there's still more to be covered, and I'm leaving that for next week's episode. I'm sticking with the same topic, but I will explore even further the many more benefits of religion. Now, if you're new to religion, I suggest you take it one step at a time. Gradual is always better than rushing in and doing everything right off the bat, because it may be too much. The power of rituals is truly amazing. So, pick one or two rituals, like prayer before food, or reading the Bible a little bit each day, or saying gratitude every day. Make it a habit, and watch your life slowly take on new meaning and change for the better. Then, little by little, add more practices when you feel ready. If you know someone that might benefit from hearing this information, please share the episode with them. And I will leave you today with a quote by none other than Albert Einstein. Enjoy, and until next time. The more I learn about the universe, the more I realize it is marvelous. The more I study, the more I'm filled with a deep sense of wonder and reverence.